The next condition, which is there before an asset can be charged to wealth taxes, that the asset must belong to the assessee. Now what does this mean? The meaning is very simple. If the asset does not belong to the assessee, it belongs to someone else, then you cannot charge it to tax in the hands of the assessee. So let's read this. If asset do not belong to the assessee on the relevant valuation date, so the ownership has to be established on the relevant valuation date. So let's say you're looking at AY 2011-12, then on March 31, 2011, the asset must belong to the assessee on the valuation date. And if the asset do not belong to the assessee on the relevant valuation date, they would not be included in the net wealth of the assessee. Okay? Now what do you mean by belong to the assessee? Let's see this word a little more closely. Belong to the assessee basically means that it should be the property or the rightful possession of. Now let's spend some time on understanding what does this mean. So it should be the property of assessee or rightful possession of. So the rightful possession must be accompanied by ownership. Okay? This is what is written in the next line. Liability to wealth tax arises out of ownership of the asset. So the rightful possession has to be matched with the ownership. One without the other is not relevant. So the location is not important. So let's say you are staying in Delhi and the asset is located in Mumbai. It doesn't make a difference. Mere possession without ownership, not relevant. Now let's say there was a piece of land which is owned by A. Okay? On 30th of March 2011, the government gives a notification that this piece of land is now going to be acquired or taken over by the government. Right? And the government is going to give, let's say, 50 lakh rupees to A. So now in this case, will the land, let's say this is an urban land only, will be included? Well, then it will fall in this clause. Why? Because even though A has the possession, the ownership is not there any longer with A. Why? Because the government has said by this notification that this land is taken over by the government. Okay? The next point is ownership should be on the relevant valuation date. I think we have discussed this point quite a few number of times. Last moment of the valuation date. Articles seized but not confiscated are included in assessee's wealth. So let's say there was a search and during which certain jewelry was seized. As long as it is not confiscated by the tax department, then these will be included in the wealth of the assessee. And the last point is even partial ownership covered. So if this land was, let's say, divided into two parts, one belonging to A and one belonging to B, even though A owned partially this land, the proportionate value belonging to A is going to be included in his net wealth.